the day you are tuning in. This is Café con Gas live from Cambridge, Massachusetts. I am so happy to be here with you this evening. Café con Gas is a show that brings dialogue live on healing, arts, and diversity with occasional guests. I am so excited because tonight we have an occasional guest who actually came onto the show last June to talk about the beginning of that new violence, which we now have seen to fruition. And there is an album release date, Tuesday, April 26th, for that new violence. We have Louis M. returning to tonight's episode of Café con Gas to talk about his CD, fresh from an album release party last night in Jamaica Plain. And also here to talk about his album, the process, and some questions that I have in store for him. I am so very, very, very excited. As I had mentioned the last time he was on the show, once in a while we have a guest who not only presents their own work, but really, encapsulates healing, arts, and diversity. And Louis is really someone who is invested in changing the narrative on violence in the mainstream medium against Black lives, and also addressing how addressing Black lives can also help just humanity and this country across borders and cultures. His work is really, really, really incredible. I had the privilege of having a private, I had a private listen to his full album, and I hope that we'll talk about this later, and I hope that you consider purchasing it later. So we are here live, Café con Gas. Ooh, tonight's emotional check-in is going to be a little bit intense. I'm going to cut to Café con Gas. Again, live from Cambridge. We always do an emotional check-in to start the show. Tonight's emotional check-in it's a lot. We lost two major figures, Prince and China, this week. China was a really famous wrestler. She also had a lot of experience across media, on television shows, in adult cinema, and is most famously known for her work as a champion wrestler and just a really incredible woman. May she rest in power. She died at the age of 45. Prince also passed away this week at the age of 57. Two really, really incredible, positive people. What I appreciate about China and Prince is that they produced a body of work, but they also made a lot of headlines with personal struggles that they had. I am a firm believer that we can't just be 100% positive. That would be a symptom of psychosis or mania. We also have to envelop and integrate the quote-unquote negative aspects, but we're talking feelings like emotion, sadness, depression, and in this particular case, both stars had addiction struggles and were reported to have overdoses. China had a cocktail of alcohol and pills, and Prince, according to reports, at this point allegedly also was doing a lot of pills, dilaudids, opiates, things to really relax you. And it's interesting because both of them had such talent and genius. So tonight's emotional check-in, I am both happy but sad. Still, feeling really happy. Also, I was feeling a little depressed yesterday because it's just a lot of feelings, and sometimes I need to take a time out, which is really hard for me. Also feeling, I'm not gonna lie, I do feel a lot of love. So this Love Struck icon I really like. I'm feeling a lot of love because, one of the reasons why these passings are so difficult and artists move me so much is that it wasn't just what I appreciated about these two particular artists, but it's also what I appreciated and how these artists helped me love myself. I can tell you, I grew up in the 80s and 90s, so I definitely had some WWE in my life, but with China, she was a really full-figured big woman, but she was so gentle. So like as a woman, I celebrate that and I take that with me now. Also Prince, very gender neutral, gender ambiguous, but a sexy mother. Beep. So I just wanted to celebrate that too. They make me feel a lot of love. So in this moment of sadness, I just want to say one of the reasons why I think we grieve the people we don't meet is that they really teach us a part of ourselves. So we can kind of take that self with us, and just keep that going. So I wanted to do a little bit of tribute in the name of healing, arts, and diversity. I wanted to show a clip of a Prince performance that but has a lot of relevancy today. It's addressed to the man that I struggle with because Sally Mae has been calling me a little bit more because I'm only taking one class for two and can't defer my student loans this semester. So I really resonate with that. So I'm playing this clip, and then we're going to transition into a quick preview of one of Louis's tracks and get him on the show as soon as possible so we can talk a little bit more about his artistic process and, you know, do an emotional check-in and see how we are feeling today. So without further ado, I present to you the late Prince, artist formerly known as, I'm pretty sure it was Prince before he died, but yeah. I'm gonna show you this clip. I hope you enjoy it with me, and I hope you take a time to do an emotional check-in with yourself. And if you feel cheesy at this time, having feelings of sadness, don't fret, just lean into it and, you know, have a moment to cry, but also have a moment to rejoice that we can celebrate his life, because, you know, we continue to celebrate ourselves and live in the healthiest way possible.
What's wrong with the world today? Things just got to get better. Show me what you say. Maybe we should write a letter. Then dear Mr. Man, we don't understand why poor people keep struggling. You will lend a helping hand. Matthew 5:5 say, the meek shall inherit the earth. We wanna be down that way, but you've been tripping since the day of your birth. Who said that to kill a sin? Started every single war that your people did. Who said that water is a precious commodity? And dropped a big old black oil slick in the deep blue sea. Who told Mr. Man working around the clock? Buy me a big house in the hood, cigarette ads on every block. Who told Mr. Man that I got a right to moan about this big old hole up here in the ozone? Somebody, oh, what's wrong?
So Prince asked what's going on, and that I just wanted to leave you with a little bit of that. I just love, there's so much to enjoy, and there's also so much still to be said. And I really like that track because he asked Mr. Man, like, what's going on? What's going on? Marvin Gaye asked what's going on. I asked what's going on. Lewis is asking what's going on. And I'm just gonna use that right now to just go into this clip real quick and transition to our special guest, because as we mourn those who are passing, we also draw upon that inspiration. And one of the things that Lewis does in his new album is sample a lot of existing artists. And I really appreciate that. And I'm just gonna play a little bit of a preview clip, and then we're gonna have him on to talk about his album and what's going on.
Got prayers of vendettas cut into the pocket of my wallet where the dollar sits. A wishing of a cynics call it clinical. The emotions I attach to tragedy is pitiful. Like some songs but they crumble to ashes. It visits you so likely. I rap into a galaxy of ears that ain't listening. Or rather you get echoes on my screams, or it'll be whispering hollow. Finding meaning in the bullshit, but it'll wait till tomorrow. Procrastinating philosoph, fill my soul with rage. Imagine silhouettes of picket signs in a car like is it time? Cops looking at us like the hungry and it's dinner time. Right.
So that's a little bit of a preview, and without further ado, I'm gonna let the man come on and speak for himself. Lewis, yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to Café con Gas. It's such a pleasure to have you. Yeah.
We hope around
thank
here.
you. Yeah, oh, for sure. Oh, that's wonderful. So welcome.
Thank you.
How are you? How are you doing?
Back.
Yeah, welcome back to the show. We had you on last June when so new studio, new space.
Yeah, it looks the same but different. Like me, the same but different.
I love it. So I'm holding your new album in my hand. I understand last night you had an album release party.
Yeah.
How did that go?
It was amazing, man.
Yeah.
Like one of the things I always focus a lot of my efforts as an artist and as a person and doing is like creating spaces where people feel safe, there's positive vibes, where there's positive energy, art being shared, and a lot of that happened last night. Like I'm actually really thankful for the group of people that were there. It wasn't too big, but it was enough that it felt like like every act brought their own different energy, and it was just people vibing, and it was really positive. And I should say, while on my camera, I don't know if any of them are watching, but
They will be.
Gecko, Grip, Oompa, and Harrowcast, thank y'all so much for coming and performing and really making the event what it was. Like it wouldn't be anything without y'all.
So I'm looking on your album you have a ton of collaborations. How did you choose you wanted to collaborate for this album?
Well, I always like collaborating with people because I feel like we can't just be holed up and just create things on our own just by ourselves. I think a lot of times any art that we make, whether it is collaborative or not, is a collaboration because we draw so much inspiration from the outside world, from things that have happened in our lives to things that just surround us. So we incorporate all of that, and in a way, everything we create is kind of a collaboration. It's important to me to get different voices with different perspectives, mainly because I don't have a monopoly on any of the subject matter that's actually on the album. I think it's very important to include as many different voices and as many different perspectives as possible.
What's the collaboration process like for you? Do you have an idea of the track and then you invite them on and they record, or is it is it really like a partnership, and what does that look like?
I don't like having people just write to my idea. I kind of want them to listen to what I wrote and respond in whatever way they feel is necessary. Like there's a track that's the final track on the album in which everyone who was on it recorded it at different points separately.
Wow.
So none of them were in the same room when it was recorded. So each person listened to what was previously recorded and responded to it in ways that made sense for them as artists. Like that song, I think, is what it is because it's the classic type of collaboration. Like I wrote the first verse and made the beat, and the beat was unfinished at that point. It was just like there were no drums on it. But then I had my friend Kadeem get on it, and he wrote a verse that I thought was really, really profoundly powerful, and would be more powerful if it had a third verse. On it, to go in between my verse and his verse. And that's when my friend Marshall came on and got in that verse. And my friend Gecko rounded it out by doing the chorus, really powerful chorus that I'm really thankful is on the song because it just brings together everything and really ties the entire song together and ties the entire album together because it's the final song on the thing. So
did you write the songs in chronological order? What was that process like for you? Because last time we heard That New Violence, like a preview of it. Bleed, track 3. Track 3 is where we began last year.
Yeah,
so did you write this in chronological order? How did that work out?
I did not actually. Like the first track I actually wrote only in October, and I started really working on the music, really working on everything early last year. I think the first song I actually finished was The Fun and Funeral, which is track 4. And then the second one I think was 7:30, and then I did a couple of other tracks that were going to be on it. But ended up getting deleted for various reasons, mostly because they weren't good. And yeah, the whole process, it goes through changes, and the vision of what I wanted the project to be started big and wide and expansive in ways that I probably wouldn't have ever been able to do on my own by myself, because I was talking about trying to put together this live show that incorporates video and theater, and then that idea got scrapped, and then I thought about like how media colors everything that we see and everything that we perceive in our world. So I thought about putting together a film made entirely out of found footage, and then that ended up not happening because project just spiraled out of control. And that was at that point, that was actually right after our interview when I showed you Bleed,
Wow.
that I decided to stop and take a break.
Wow. Okay.
And I came back to it later on, and actually the majority of the album, most of it, was finished in that period after that.
So that's a turning point for you.
Yeah, so from October, I'll say October to March is when the creative juices were running again, and I was creating again. So yeah.
That's good. So I just wanted to clarify for anyone who hasn't seen, and I'll pin the most recent interview, but when Lewis came on and he talked about, he premiered Bleed, he actually mixed in footage from the LA riots in the 90s, and it was really powerful because you're talking about contemporary issues, and it's that repeat of violence. So can you talk a little bit more about what that new violence is? What does that mean? Is it really new, or is that just the name of your track? Is it a play on words?
Well, it's not new, but it's like we act like it's new. Like the whole sort of concept of the entire thing splintered from this idea of a reset button that we have in our brains every time a big tragedy or a big moment of violence happens, where we act like it's never happened before. And it reminded me, actually, the main idea of this started around the time that I put out my second project called Ampersand back in August of 2014, because in that month, in like a few weeks' time, all of these things all of a sudden were happening. Mike Brown, Eric Garner, Tamir Rice, all within, a few weeks of each other. And that was, that got me thinking about that cultural reset button. We just, like, every time we act like it's the first time when it's never been the first time. These things repeat. So sort of that new violence is what would happen if that reset button wasn't pushed. So every song on the album is like a different emotional state of mind or a psychological state of mind I had between that time of August to now.
What are some of those emotions that you explore in this album?
I explore lots of feelings of, self-doubt, of, sort of incriminating myself, thinking something's wrong with me for society being how it is, to reflecting on my past, being someone who was born in the inner city, born into a poor family, into a poor area, and then coming up to Boston, and seeing the differences in oppression being similar but different and from different sources, but all rooted under systemic oppression. And there's a lot of different parallels to sort of owning who you are, owning your identity, and not letting other people determine your identity for you. So.
You mentioned when you first sat in the seat that, it's still the same you, but a new version. Since that time, have you found ways to kind of claim that identity and maybe soothe or redefine that pain?
Yeah, I definitely have. And it's the kind of thing where you think about this concept of, artist block all the time. And you think about, how am I going to reinvent myself as an artist? How am I going to change? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? How am I going to be better? And at the end of the day, it's not about, really reinventing yourself or changing yourself. It's about taking in everything that's happening around you, that's happening in the world, and just using that as your fuel to push forward and keep creating. And it's the same but different. You know, it's the same me but different. I'm sure a minute from now it'll still be the same me but different.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. That's a really kind of self-aware statement. So now that you're at this point where you have just completed this album, what are your plans for it? Are you selling it? Are you what's the release now?
So it comes out on Tuesday, April 26th, which is my birthday. I turned 27. Getting old.
Congratulations. You're seasoning. You're seasoning. You're not getting cooked yet.
We'll see. But yeah, comes out this Tuesday.
Okay.
There's the digital copy, and then there's a physical copy, which includes 2 discs. One is the album, and the second is instrumentals. And that can be found on my website, lewism.bandcamp.com. And the link can also be found on my Facebook fan page.
I'm gonna bring this up for a second so everybody can check this out.
Yeah, definitely.
Café con Gas likes, and I'll share
There
this
it
too.
is.
But here we are.
So yes, that is my
Final
page.
album.
It can be found there. I am going to premiere it through a local Boston area blog, and that's going to be the first, place where it is and where you can find it. And you can find it if you visit either of those sites. I think my Facebook is it's just Lewis M, and I think the link is facebook.com/Lewis Morris Poetry.
Definitely check that out. What I really appreciate and love about your music is that you sample almost everything. You have a Tokyo artist on there. You go back to funk. You go back to 90s hip hop. What would you call your genre of hip hop? If you want to fit it in a box, maybe it can't be fit, maybe it can't. But
there's subgenres, but at the end of it all, it's still hip hop. If I wanted to categorize it a certain way, it would probably fit under the category of 90s era, like a boom bap East Coast hip hop. But that's not really my aim to call myself that.
Right.
Because I think it's all hip hop. I think it's all one big unified thing. And although we come from different styles that come with different sounds, it's all
one hip hop
housed under hip hop. So I wouldn't really put a subgenre on it.
Good.
Really.
Good. Yeah, I recently, I'm not too satisfied with the current state of hip hop. We had one of my favorite Puerto Rican bands, Yandel. He had Future rap on one of his tracks, and I thought it was crap. So I'm hoping that your album can reach a wider audience. If there's any way we can help to do that, it's just really, really good work.
Thank you.
And I'm hoping that this blog and this album can help expose you to more people. You also, I know that there's mention, last we talked about Flatline Poetry. Flatline also helped produce this album.
Flatline was really helpful in the initial planning stages and the conception stages. Like my friend Kaylee, who's an executive producer on the project, was one of the people that I'd go to every time I finished the song, and she'd be the one to say if it was good or bad or not. And she really helped to mold a lot of the vision for the project. And so Flatline's involvement comes from a more like a supervisory direction. Although one of our members, Oompa, is actually featured on the album, is actually on the song that you started playing.
That was 6 o'clock.
Yeah,
that was
6 o'clock news.
The 6 o'clock news.
Yeah.
So now that you've completed this album, what's your next week going to be like? You're just going to focus on the release? Are you constantly writing music all the time? You're also a poet. You're an educator. Where's your creative mind at?
My creative mind is on a beach somewhere taking a vacation.
Rightfully so. Rightfully so. Definitely. Well, we have about a minute and 20 seconds left, so I want to make sure we have a proper send off. You're having fun. Time flies by. Is there anything you would like to say to viewers out there, or someone who may be going through many of the emotions in digesting the news and wants a different point of view?
Well, it's important to understand where your media and where your news comes from. You know, different people along the chain have different agendas that they want to sell you. So it's important to understand that, and it's important to understand how it's being reported to you rather than just taking the report as fact. So yeah, it's important to just question where it comes from, and always look for multiple sources, because there's more than two sides to every story.
Awesome. So on that point, Louis, thank you for coming on Café con Gas.